Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can. And I continue with Tyranny, Blind. Now, if this sounds a little disjointed, it's because it's done through magic of editing. Later, I noticed the previous episode was way too long, so I cut it in half. Let's continue. Let's talk to Verse. I couldn't help but notice how you were eyeballing the disfavored symbol littered around camp. It's hardly a symbol, just a scroll. That's true, but it used to be the pride of Graven Ash's Legion before Kairos made them deface it. What happened? Word has it that Ashe has been under more scrutiny than other Archons, seeing as he took a stand against Kairos in the past. Even though he bent the knee in the end, this doesn't place him above suspicion. Kairos and the other Archons keep him on a tight leash. Before he bent the knee to Kairos, Graven Ashe rallied his legions against the Overlord's authority. His prowess on the battlefield ingratiated him to the Archons, who welcomed him into their ranks in exchange for his obedience. Okay, so the disfavored actually rebelled against Kairos in the past, which, to be honest, gives me a bit of hope that possibly, maybe, I can somehow save the Tearsmen. Like, you know, if I convince them to, like, surrender again, maybe they would be taken back, and I wouldn't have to kill them all. Ashe's troops impressed the growing empire, but Kairos made them sacrifice everything they were up to the point Ashe surrendered. They've been disfavored ever since, and fighting to earn back their honor. I guess that's why you don't cross the Overlord. Kairos holds a grudge with a mean jealous streak. Actually, I have other questions. Go on then, Verse nods.
What do you need?
Care to duel? Not now, maybe. Tell me something about yourself.
If you insist. I'm a Scarlet Fury. That should raise some flags for you. It means that I'm good at killing, and more importantly, that I enjoy it. What I won't enjoy are the pleasures of funerary rites packed with weeping mourners. Someday I'll fall in battle, and then they'll roll me into a mass grave or heap me atop a shit-stained wagon. One more anonymous, knife-riddled piece of meat. Until then, I plan to take whatever I can from life and have a little fun along the way.
Do you ever wish you could do things over and end up somewhere other than Kairos' army? That's as naive a question as I've ever heard. Kairos is everywhere. If you aren't in the Overlord's army, you're being trampled by it. Of course, I could have labored on my family farm into my maturing years, married some dolt and littered him a nursery of squealing piglets. Having my body torn to pieces by smaller versions of me sounds like fun. And then one day, when I decided it was enough, I would slit my husband's throat over breakfast and run off to join the chorus anyway. My way saved a lot of time. Verse smooths back the feathers in her hair and shakes her head with a smile. Well, to be honest, you wouldn't know unless you tried a civilian life, so maybe you could have given it a chance. And then you don't know me at all, Fatebinder. She huffs and shakes her head. Tell me about your life before the chorus. Life? What life? As far as I'm concerned, I didn't exist before the chorus. There was some girl in a farm wearing my face and talking with my voice, but she wasn't me. Sometimes she would sneak out at night, take a scythe, and have some fun with the livestock. Our interests began and ended there. Okay, so she's possibly a serial killer? Like a psychopath? Because that's how, that's how violent psychopathy often manifests in children. They hurt, kill, mutilate animals before they sometimes move on to people. When the Scarlet Chorus swept through my village on their long trek from the bastard city, then that was when I finally woke up. I buried my old life, took the red vengeance on anyone who wronged me, and found freedom I could only dream was out there. What of your parents? My mother ran a successful farm, and I worked for it a number of years before I found the chorus. She was a hard, bitter woman, acted like the world owed her something. She never talked about my father, though I figured a thing or two about him later on. He was a merchant from the Northern Empire who took a liking to her and she to him. He stayed around only long enough to get what he wanted. But never mind him. My mother never had what you could call taste, so he couldn't have been terribly influential to me, even if he did stick around. How did you get conscripted? How did I think you have the wrong idea about me. The chorus didn't take me as a sobbing maid. I strode into their camp and enlisted. Someone tossed me a dented blade. I lived through the initiation, spent a week butchering my neighbors, and moved on with my new kin. Okay, she's clearly insane, and possibly a psycho. Like, it's not even that her village was burned, and she joined the chorus because she had no choice, which seems to be the story, well, no choice between that or death, which seems to be the story for many of them. She clearly was like a psychopath in the making, mutilating livestock even before they showed up. I didn't waste my time with goodbyes. My mother has long since died, and the rest of my family were louses. The girl I used to be, even she knew that she was worth more than all of them combined. What is the significance of your feathers? Insufficient reputation. I don't tell that story to just anyone. You'll have to butter me up before I get into really intimate details. Okay, enough questions about your past. That suits me just fine. I'm not much for comparing family histories if I can avoid it. Tell me about your time with the Scarlet Chorus.
The Scarlet Chorus is mostly for madmen and peasants with rusty daggers, but it's also a little niche of freedom that I never had. Once I survived training and met my Scarlet Fury sisters, I saw a different side of the Howling Mob.
Tell me about your training.
For new recruits shoved to the front lines, training means surviving the first battle. Anything beyond that is for the fighters who show potential, whether as blade dancers or arcane madmen. There's nothing in the world like getting put through the paces as a Scarlet Fury. Every day is a test of your commitment and passion. Failure means death. The first few weeks were the hardest, but also the most rewarding. I earned my name, picked up some quality weapons, and met my sisters.
Tell me about the Scarlet Furies.
The elite fighters of the Scarlet Chorus. Your typical Horde recruit fights with a rusty spoon and a chip on his shoulder, but the Scarlet Furies are, well, different. We focus our madness. We coordinate, we kill, we dance. It's like art. Imagine a sculpture that twisted in weird, beautiful angles, and then gutted you too fast for you to realize what was happening.
Yeah, clearly insane. Do you even hear yourself when you talk? She's not going to like me, is she?
Oh, fuck you then. I'm not here to dazzle you with my use of metaphor. When it comes to the Scarlet Chorus, you either get it or you don't.
Yeah, I clearly don't. And, the only thing I like about them is the fact that they seem to be less concerned with slaughtering people, and at the very least, they give them a chance to join them. But what I don't like is that it's often in the form of slaves, which, is not really a choice, and it's not really joining them as much as it being absorbed by them. And the other thing is, they then use them as cannon fodder in the next battle. So, you know, it's potato, potato, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. How did you earn your name? If you think a simple farmer from the Tears would name her child Verse, I suggest you visit my old village. Most of them were walking around with names like Barrel or Fish. Not the most creative bunch. She smirks and shakes her head. The chorus takes your name away. Whoever you were before, you aren't that person anymore. Then you earn back a name through great deeds, usually murderous ones. That's why you see choirmen walking around with names like Stinkmouth or Face First. There's probably a good reason for it. The voices of the rat gave me this name. When the Scarlet Chorus runs howling into the battle, he doesn't hear war, he hears a symphony, and when I fight with blade or bow, he told me that my music stands out louder than anyone else's and contains too many parts to be easily defined. When you least suspect it, the Archon of Secrets can be downright charming. What is your real name is something that she probably will also get angry at, because as far as she is concerned, Verse is her real name right now. Tell me about your weapon skills. When I was just a kid, it didn't take me long to realize I was a natural. I could pick up a rusty kitchen knife and skewer a rat from across the room. The Scarlet Chorus gave me the opportunity to further educate myself. My sisters were always a bit surprised by how quickly I took to different fighting styles. She frowns for a moment, and then shakes off whatever she wanted to say. Back to my general questions about the chorus.
What do you need to know?
Who are your sisters? Who were they would be more appropriate. Three Whispers, Red Gazer, and Seeking Sheath. The best fighters I've ever met. Oh, are the stances named after them? There wasn't a foe we couldn't take down together. Our fighting styles complemented perfectly, so we divvied up the killing work like bards sharing a song. At least we used to. She presents a solemn salute. Tell me about Three Whispers. She was as calm as the surface of a pond, and light on her feet. More than one foe tripped and fell on their own blade due to Whisper's crafty footwork. Verse lets her gaze slip away from you as a fleeting moment of sorrow steals her attention. Tell me about Red Gazer. A one-woman siege breaker, she would launch herself at foes like a battering ram. Not even a disfavored phalanx could have withstood that damn suicidal wench. Kairos' eyes, but she was something to behold. Verse slams her fist into her palm. Tell me about Seeking Sheath. The girl could pass a spear through 12 rings from the far side of the battlefield. Kairos helped any foes who approached her marching a single file. She made a game of spitting as many soldiers as possible with the same javelin. What happened to them? We were scouting around Vendrian's well during the siege, back when we only suspected the guard of organizing in secret. My sisters and I came upon a group of them, or Kairos knows, maybe they found us. No one said anything. We drew iron and bronze. Then everything went wrong. I was supposed to take point and occupy the guard with the dance of blade work, something disorienting while my sisters picked their marks. I hesitated, lost my nerve. Instead of rushing the Oathbreakers, I froze with my weapons drawn. My sisters fought on without me, but they were off balance, like whatever I had was catching. They died, I lived. My sisters were relying on me to lead the dance, and I failed them. Is it understandable? Like, to be honest, like, you know, it's understandable for normal people, but she seemed to be a trained killer, you know, experienced killer long before that, so what happened? I guess let's try, like, would she be a person that would appreciate pity is the question, because it might very well be that she's going to be further annoyed by me showing her pity. Loyalty 0, fear 1. let's try it, I guess, although, as I said, it's a 50-50 chance that she's not going to like it either way. It's understandable. Caution stayed your hand. Caution? Yeah, she didn't like it. Save your caution for the disfavored. If we showed caution, perhaps we could have taken the bastard city. Could we have taken the bastard city or the gates of judgment? Could we have conquered the tears with anything less than our blood boiling over with rage, the song of battle ripping from our lungs? Hesitation is rot. It's unbecoming of any chorus member, and unheard of in a Scarlet Fury. I would cut it out from my body and cauterize the wound, if I only knew its source. She grimaces once more and turns inward, contemplating. Any thoughts on the topic, or are we here just to open old wounds? Well, I imagine she won't tell me this, but any idea why you lost your nerve in battle? I wish I had an explanation. For the first time I lost the dance. The song of murder drew silent. Instead there was only rigid, organized control. More questions about the Scarlet Chorus.
What do you need to know?
Who are the Scarlet Chorus leaders? Well, the Voices of Nerat is the spider in the center of the web. He acts like the army belongs to him, and he only lends it to Kairos because it suits his purposes, both of which are true. The rest are all offshoots of the Voices, like the Fifth Eye. Once you get down to the rank and file, the Scarlet Chorus organized around a motley bunch of gang bosses who call their shots. What do you want to know? Tell me about the Voices of Nerat. He's a madman, but that never stopped me from following his orders. Even in a legion as cutthroat as the Chorus, you know better than to get one of on the Voice's bad side. People who cross him, or just people he meets, don't tend to survive the experience. If he ever seems disorganized or lost, it is because he's channeling one of the personalities he's devoured over the years. His mannerisms shift over to someone else's, someone who is probably long since dead. Better to die than become part of the Voices. Through powers you can't begin to understand, the Voices of Nerat steals the minds and knowledge of his victims. You know that happened often during the campaigns in the Tears. What he gains from this ability beyond his apparent madness is anyone's guess. You know better than to ask him about it directly. What makes the Voices of Nerat so powerful? He's the Archon of Secret, and he didn't earn that title lightly. People say he knows more than every sage in the Tears combined, and that he can think 1,000 steps ahead of the other Archons. Sage, one of the longest surviving schools of magic in the Tears, the School of Ink and Quill, is a venerable institution devoted to the acquisition and preservation of knowledge, or so the sages profess. Putting more of their energy towards amassing knowledge than disseminating it, they began their scriptorium in 17 TR, and throughout a series of incremental expansion, the structure became the Vellum Citadel, only to be known as the Burning Library after Kairos' Edict of Fire brought ruination in 430 TR. Not all sages know magic, but those that have mastered the guild's traditional spells can employ magic of protection and preservation. It is a poorly kept secret that the sages have gradually acquired a wide array of magic practiced by rival mage guilds over the generations. It would be putting it lightly to say he's never alone under that disapproving helmet of his. If you make secrets your business, I guess having people constantly whisper in your ear is a good thing. I usually want people to shut up, but to each their own. Tell me about the Fifth Eye. A walking nightmare, that one. I couldn't even guess who lives under that armor and speaks with that reedy voice, but I'll tell you what I know. When your world is built on secrets, it pays to have a few extra eyes. The Voices of Nerat has eyes in abundance, some that he keeps close and the other that he sends out into the wilderness. Whoever the Fifth Eye was before he came into the Archon's service, now he's just a half-mad jabbering speech hole, a bodily function, in other words, an eye. Wait, Nerat's eyes are people? Maybe they used to be people. Whatever they were, they are eyes now. Folks like to whisper that the voices of Narad takes servants and cuts off all of the extra parts that they don't need. She makes a quick snipping gesture with her fingers. I once heard that the voices and the fifth eye in the tent together, the voices kept screaming redundancies, redundancies, every time a gout of blood would spray on the canvas walls. I can't even guess what he was cutting out. How many eyes does the Archon of Secrets have? The number keeps changing, either because it grows or because rumors don't mean shit. 3, 7, 19. Some say that all of us are eyes and we don't even know it. She shakes her head in thoughtful disapproval. It's one of those questions that drives you mad if you allow it yourself to think about it for too long. Hey, you could be one of Tunon's eyes, but you never thought of that. Well, back to my questions about the leaders. Tell me about the gang bosses. A boss is anyone who can rally enough support to kill the previous boss. They cling to command until someone gets wise and stabs them in the back. Tipcap leads the filthy lambs. Locks leads the rusted harps. Sharps used to lead the bone boys. Couldn't say where he ended up after they broke his legs. Waterwheel orders around the hairy hunters. Holes for shit leads the lazy Malkins. Then Scurved Queen, Fingerfood, and Wildgash collectively lead the Ladies of Perpetual Strangulation. Okay. I'm forgetting at least a dozen or more. I've even led a gang or two in my day. They never survive for very long, so there's no point in getting attached. You led a gang? Don't act surprised. I can crack a whip better than any of those daisies at the disfavored labor camps. But I was never interested in the power struggle of those grunts and scabs in the middle. I just wanted to stand on the top like the apex predator. Here I am. So when I got tired of a gang, I disbanded and let the other bosses fight over the new recruits. That much amused me, at least. Some of my old mates are still alive and hanging around wherever they ended up. Well, back to my questions. Before, you hesitated when you brought up fighting styles. Why? As if that is any of your business. If I wanted to say something, you would have heard it. Don't assume that I'm holding back. Let's use this, I guess. Worst case scenario, she just becomes more angry with me, which she's already pretty angry. By my office as Fatebinder, you're beholden to deal with me honestly. That's as starchy and literal a point as I've ever heard, but you're not wrong. Also, I like how you handled yourself there, throwing your authority around like it meant something. I mentioned before that I'm good at picking up different weapons and fighting techniques. The truth is I'm better than most. I'm better than good, actually. I could fly a man so cleanly that I would leave a single strip of skin behind. He wouldn't even need to be tied down. What? I call bullshit, and that has nothing to do with her skill. It's just that, the vast overwhelming majority of people wouldn't take flying alive without trying to get out of the situation. That was one of the first things I discovered about myself after joining the Scarlet Chorus. The voices of Narad recognized it in me as well, which is why he singled me out for Scarlet Fury training. Go on. My sisters were the masters of their fighting forms, but since they died, my style has changed, almost like I can kill as they did. I could pick up a bow, a lance, anything really. I could tear someone to pieces with a weapon that I only watched my sisters use. I don't know what this could mean, and it worries me. Well, let me ask about something else.
What do you need to know?
Didn't I ask about this already? How is it that you picked up your fallen sister's weapon skills? This has been on my mind for some time, and I still don't have an explanation that fits. I have a few ideas, but... She frowns in deep thought. The Scarlet Furies share sort of a link. It's how we coordinate our dance in the heat of battle. We don't pass messages or anything, but our emotions and intentions sync up without words. She starts worrying. What? She starts worrying one of her knives? What does that mean? How can you worry a knife? After a moment she sighs and slaps the blade back into its sheath. Go on. And the one thing that I always knew was that I felt the connection more keenly than my sisters did. I could pick up nuances they missed, and I could feel them from very far away. When my sisters died, I felt each of them getting yanked out of my brain like someone who was pulling snails from a garden, but some of their slime residue was still there. Does this make any sense? You should take comfort in that. Your sisters live on in you. Your optimism is cute, Fatebinder, if singularly useless. It won't bring my sisters back, and it doesn't fix the thing in my head that I don't understand. Well, yeah, but, nothing will bring them back. The memory of them is like the next best thing you can have about dead people that you were close to. I think it's better than nothing, if anything, if you're honoring them through channeling their art of warfare. No matter how you paint it, in some part of my sisters broke off in me when they died, and now I'm left to deal with it. Just another day in the tears, right? I have thoughts about your combat abilities, do I?
Do you now? Call me intrigued. You already know that I memorize the moves of my Scarlet Fury sisters. If it seems like a total mystery to me, I don't know how you could have arrived at any conclusions, but I'm open to ideas.
Your talent reminds me of the voices of Nerat.
I hope I didn't hear you say that, Fatebinder, because the implication is more than either of us is prepared to handle. The voices of Nerat is a monster. We both know that Tyranny has never seen a creature more despicable than him. Never mind that he's kind of my boss.
Well, he absorbs the minds of his victims, which I've read about, but I'm not necessarily comparing you to him, only this talent you exhibit.
My little talent that latches onto my friends and bleeds them dry, you mean? Because I never asked for it. I've traveled with the chorus for years. I've seen what the voices can do, and it scares me, all right? The idea that everything I am could be reduced to that. If I had that kind of power, if I could become like him, I don't know how I could live with myself. I'd rather drown myself in a camp latrine.
Well, to be honest, why such a version? Like, I understand that this is a pretty creepy thing, but you don't have to become like him.
I'm sure he had the same idea when he got started. But you know what they say about power? It's usually wielded by assholes. My sisters died. Oh, you should have seen us. We were amazing together. I didn't mean to take away what made them special, but I did it all the same. And let me tell you, it felt terrible. If I lived a century, I might never figure out how to make that happen again. And more importantly, I don't want to.
What are your thoughts on the disfavored? A warren of self-entitled children, so wound up in delusions of honor that they are likely to hang themselves by their own high standards. I wish they had stayed in the Northern Empire where they belonged. They could get some real work done in the then we could get some real work done in the tiers. What do you think of their leader, Graven Asher? I've seen enough of that high-minded braggart to know that he's all duty, nothing but a charismatic, broad-shouldered scarecrow. He calls himself the Archon of War, though by the way he stalls his forces waiting for a better strategy to present itself, you would think he's afraid of battle. You would think that someone more deserving would take Ash's mantle from him, but the disfavored have this cult of personality built around their great general. In their eyes, he can do no wrong. What about Ash's connection to his troops? Graven Asher protects. His soldiers keep harping on these words like they mean something. I don't deny that the disfavored can take a few extra hits on the battlefield, but this only speaks to their thick-headedness. If anything, it's only true because his soldiers place that much trust in it. I've seen the power of suggestion do stranger things to people. Stranger things than heal battlefield wounds? I don't think so. Yeah, that placebo works. The placebo effect is a thing, but it's not literally going to save your life if you receive an actual physical wound. Suit yourself. I'm just putting it out there, and I don't see you coming up with any great explanation for a soldier who bounces back from a killing wound. Who would you see to take Ash's place? I would rather let the disfavored sort it out among themselves. Graven Asher is this aging figurehead of what should be a constantly changing role. The right soldier needs to grow a pair and kill the old man. Kick the cane out from under him, remind the Legion what strength looks like. The voices of Nerath changes. He's a multifaceted gem, and the Scarlet Chorus is a reflection of that beauty. If someone could rise up and strike down the voices, any of us would follow them in a heartbeat. I suppose you have a better idea of how to handle the disfavored? Of course I do. First, I would stop babying the troops. Pain is a lesson best learned early. I'd conscript them from the locals to bolster the front lines, because why waste your elite on the vanguard? Then I would have any misplaced ethics back in the Northern Empire. They are not helping Kairos' campaign anyway, so fuck them. Well, you would just make them a copy of the Scarlet Chorus, that's true. And the Scarlet Chorus seem to suck, so, I'm not entirely well predisposed towards that idea. You would take everything that makes them strong. That's a damn fine alternative from where I'm standing. If all that strength couldn't end the siege, what good is it to anyone? Well, to be honest, neither did you. You both seem to be sitting around twiddling your thumbs and pointing your fingers at each other, as in that Spider-Man meme, instead of actually doing anything worthwhile. Would that be so wrong? The chorus is accountable for itself in ways that the disfavored aren't. Our weak die, so the strong fight to keep their rank. The disfavored promote the waning bloodline and discipline any soldier with the audacity to show their teeth. Though they would never admit it, the disfavored need the chorus to show them the way. Well, back to my questions. If we must. Do you think the disfavored have a chance to succeed? Speaking as one of the exceptions, most of the tiersmen are pushovers. The people of Stalwart seem capable enough, though I have my doubts. You might call them disfavored's best challenge. Even if they succeed, it might be too late to redeem themselves. The chorus has already impacted the conquest more than the disfavored have, or likely ever will. What are your thoughts on their battle strategies? They really got something with their phalanx maneuver. A formation built on holding still, moving forward slowly, and hoping that no one slips in the mud. At best, the disfavored are tired of using the same tactic over and over again. At worst, the enemy knows what to expect of them. Scarlet Furies are dancers. We hear the music of battle and organize ourselves into works of killing art. Every fight is as hot as passionate as the last, with no room for stale routine. Let me ask something else. What do you think of those who defy Kairos' authority? The Tearsmen can either fight or submit to Kairos' peace, and only one of those options captures my interest. I suppose I appreciate when they go down fighting. If they did otherwise, I would need to find another excuse to flay them. They need to understand whether we unify the Tears under a shared banner or at the bottom of a mass grave makes little difference to you, me, or Kairos. I think it does make a difference, because, you know, I'm pretty sure if he wanted to just kill them, he could. He seems to be, if not omnipotent, then at the very least very, very powerful. But he clearly wants to conquer them. He wants to rule them, as he does the rest of the world. That's an interesting view of conquest. It's a pragmatic one. The Scarlet Chorus caught on to the idea at the beginning of the campaign. If no one objects that we're here to carve a bloody path for gain and amusement, then by all accounts that is our purpose. Besides, unification is such a vague concept that Kairos allows the disfavored and the Chorus to interpret it as they will. The Overlord is concerned with results. I'm happy to focus on the details, especially if that means cutting off a farmer's leg while his family watches their land burn. She smiles at the pleasing memory. Yeah, you are pretty disgusting. Like, we're not going to like each other? If you understood how a Scarlet Fury makes art out of death, you might not think so. Keep an open mind. You might enjoy the things I show you. Your words doesn't faze her in the slightest. She only nods, a suspicion confirmed. Did you fight in any notable battles? I spent some time in Azure during the end of the war. Beastmen ripped my unit apart. We thought they might be working under Cairn's orders, but we never found out for sure. Are you a spy for Voices of Nerat? Like, if she was, she wouldn't tell me, but let's ask just to hear her possibly get annoyed. Verse regards you with an unreadable expression. Her mismatched eyes look at each of yours in turn. I was, and to be perfectly fair, I think I've been more or less transparent about it, but that doesn't change anything about why I chose to travel with you. If I didn't want to, I would just leave. What did the Voices want to know? He never told me. He just said to keep an eye on you, but there was an implication that I would have an opportunity to report in, as if I would have. More likely he would have stolen my mind and learned anything I knew, just to make sure I didn't leave anything out, so if you have any reservations about my discretion, keep that in mind. Well, you know, I don't have a grudge against her specifically for that. She's lower in the chain sort of command, and the Voices of Nerat seems like an absolutely scary motherfucker. So I would understand why she wouldn't want to defy him necessarily, although the way she's telling me it now, it seems she kind of is. Like, it seems she does kind of disagree with his orders, just not enough to defy them to his face. You are just doing your job. Well, I'm grateful that we don't have to make a big deal about this and waste our time wondering if we can ever trust each other. Honestly, it's refreshing. Do I want to duel? Maybe some other time. We'll talk again later. Because reputation ability unlocked versus fear ability, Furious Rage. Project intense flames towards Verse, which she catches on her blades and spins into an aura of wreathing flames around her. Nearby foes take burn damage. Okay, this episode is already too long, because I didn't expect the dialogue with Verse to be so exhaustive. So I am going to pause it here. That's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!